Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Chamber Podcast. My name is Rob Johnson. We have an exciting show for you today. Joining me in studio is Stu Strahan. He is the owner of Fastest Labs of Brighton. Stu, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rob. I appreciate that. Pretty excited to be here.
I'm excited you're here as well. So we've had one interaction before this, which I mistakenly conflated as being on this show. It goes to tell you how poor my memory is.
Oh, it's all good. When you're as busy as you are and hard to keep up.
Well, I really enjoyed our first conversation, getting to know the business, and now I'm excited to broadcast that to the listeners of this particular podcast. So, Stu, just at a high level, give me a rundown of what Fastest Labs does.
I appreciate that. So basically what it is we are part of a team that's been working for over 15 years. We've helped out over thousands of companies overcome the challenges of drug and alcohol testing in the workplace. And that also includes DOT compliance. So whether a company chooses to be part of a drug testing program or they're federally mandated to volunteer to be part of a drug testing program, we can help them out. And I know what the challenges are on the other side of that because I've been on the other side for so many years. I've had a CDL for over 34 years. As the programs have changed over the years, I've seen the challenges. Most of the time when you send you in for a drug test to be compliant for DOT, it's very common that when you go to a place, they'll treat you like an inmate and they'll keep you waiting in the lobby for hours on end. And that's no fun for the employer because typically they're on the payroll while they're sitting down there waiting. And it's certainly no fun for the employee who is being treated like that. So when I got involved with Fastest Labs, it was pretty exciting to see that there was another way of doing things. And quite frankly, when we saw the opportunity, we were so excited about it as a family that we bought 2 franchises. So we definitely jumped in with both feet once I saw that.
So your background being in the truck driving industry for over 30 years, so you've seen the other side of it where it's not great when you go and have that mandatory drug test that comes in. So it's basically like they'll just kind of shuffle you in and it's like, do you feel like an inconvenience?
Yeah, at best you feel like an inconvenience. But yeah, my background's been more construction.
Oh, I see, construction. Okay, very good.
A lot of the skilled trades, and then if you're moving equipment, that type of thing, you have to have a commercial driver's license, either A or B.
Got it.
And I've always, since I turned 18, I did that. So yeah, I've kind of seen everything come and go over the years. But yeah, when they bring you in, it's not very common. I've talked to people in the military, talked to people in the workforce. It's just not very common to be treated very nicely when you're getting a drug test. You're just typically not treated very well on a common test. I've even talked to women who said that they applied for a job at a place. They went back and forth, worked out the details. And then their first impression with that in place of employment was they sent them in for a drug test, and they said they've never been treated so poorly in their life. They almost didn't accept a job because of the first impression they had with that company. So it can definitely be a big deal for some people.
That is surprising. I guess I never really thought about it that way. I've only had to do that, I think, one time, and it was very early on, and I can't really remember what that experience was like. But that is a really good point that you bring up, Stu, when you think about businesses or that employment process and some that do require drug testing. That really is the first interaction that they have to the company, and it's not even their company. It's a representative of the company.
Right.
So how's Fastest Labs different?
We are different in the fact that I like to start out with, we like people. We love it when people walk in our front door. So you're usually greeted with a smile. You say, welcome to Fastest Labs. How can I help you? And it's a pretty simple process. If a company has an account with us, they can go on to a portal, and in just about 2 minutes, they can make what we call a passport. They hit a click of a button, and it sends an email to the donor's phone. Everybody has their email on their phone nowadays, so it's pretty easy to happen. They walk in, they say, I'm here for a pre-employment drug test or whatever. They show the barcode on the email. We scan that, and instantly we have all their information from the company they're working with to all their information. We take them into the room, go through a few simple procedures, typically empty the pockets into a locker, wash their hands, go in, and the most common drug test for pre-employment is urine because it's kind of been the standard since the 80s. The federal government at that point said that was the only approved drug test, so it's kind of been the standard because it's very effective and it is very cost-effective as well. So then we collect the sample, come back out, wash your hands, go through a couple steps, and they walk out the door. So it's a very simple process, and it really only needs to take, for a rapid test, we can have people in and out of the door in 5 minutes or less, and a lab-based test that goes to a lab, we typically have them out within 10 minutes. So when you send somebody to a typical clinic or a medical facility for a drug test, they can be there upwards of 2 hours, and we get people in and out in 15 minutes or less.
Oh, wow.
So much more convenient, much more friendly, just a lot better customer experience, if you will.
So does drug testing as far back as the 80s? Is that really when it started?
Oh, that's a great question. I appreciate that, Rob. So it actually started in the 70s, back in the Vietnam era.
I see.
There was an accident on a boat called the Nimitz, and then that's when the government found out that there was a group of guys, some airmen and some sailors as well, that were using mind-altering drugs. Now, I can imagine if I was in Vietnam, I might be
Right? The Beatles, the Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds? Absolutely.
I might be tempted to do some of that too, to kind of get my mind out of that place. But
Sure.
the fact is, if you're on an aircraft carrier, not a very safe place to be using mind-altering drugs. So that's kind of where it all stemmed from. So then that grew into the early 80s. By 86, the Reagan administration had actually had in place a drug testing mandatory program for people in all branches of government, and it has certainly grown from then in all organizations, especially the Department of Transportation. So, and then pretty much by the early 90s, it had kind of grown into the private sector as well. So a lot of private companies were doing drug and alcohol testing as random programs and such. And then most estimates say that actually up to this date, somewhere between 50 and 75% of all businesses are doing some sort of a drug testing program.
Okay. And then do you know by chance like how many of those tests are positive on average?
That is a great question.
If you don't, it's okay. I was just curious. I was curious what the success ratio compared to like is it worth the expense, all that, you know.
So I deal typically in the workplace. I know if you're dealing with the courts, things are a little bit different, but pretty much in the workplace, I want to say it was roughly 8% of the tests come back positive.
Okay.
And if you take out THC, it's usually closer to about 3%.
Got it.
Roughly.
Okay. Interestingly enough, you mentioned the Nimitz. My junior high geography teacher was, I believe, on that boat because he told us that story. If it was Vietnam era, I remember he talked about it all the time. So when you said that boat name, I had a flashback to 13-year-old Rob sitting in class not paying attention to where Kuwait is on the map. So,
Right.
So Stu, there's other types of testing out there other than your typical drug test for the workplace. Do you guys engage in anything outside of that?
We sure do. And I want to run through that real quick first, too, because when we talk about drug testing, most people just think it is the urinalysis, which that is the most common test. But we also can do drug testing through fingernails, through hair, through a saliva test.
It's like CSI out there.
Yeah, it sure is. So yeah, we have different options. And so when people hire executives instead of just like an entry-level position, they want to have more information. So your urinalysis covers you about the last 30 days, let you know if somebody's been using drugs. Hair and nails, they can go back as much as 30 to 60 days. And then the drug test from the nails can actually go back almost 7 months. So it gives you a little bit more of a history for somebody.
Oh, wow.
So, anybody that wants to get a good job, they can clean up for a few days here or there or whatever, but it's kind of hard what you did 6-7 months ago. So sometimes those tests are used also. Now, another test that we do is DNA testing. And this is just such a cool field. It's growing by leaps and bounds every single day. So the most common DNA test we do is for paternity type testing. So if somebody wants to find out, I hate to use the phrase, but it's kind of out there, who's your daddy, that type of stuff. So we can determine parentage, we can determine grandparents, we can determine siblings, even grandparents, that kind of stuff through the DNA test. Another option for DNA test is the ancestry. Everybody's into that nowadays. They want to know, hey, do I have any long-lost brothers or sisters out there? The answer for me is yes, I do. I found that out. So that's been an exciting road in the last few months. Yeah, so
that's awesome.
It's been pretty interesting to say the least. And then some other cool things we can do with DNA tests are certain options like we can tell you if you have food sensitivities, pet allergies, that type of stuff. And they actually have a DNA test for your healthy weight. So basically, do an easy little swab inside your cheeks a couple of times. We send it in the lab, and they'll have enough information from your DNA that they can tell you what kind of foods you need to eat, what kind of exercises to do to basically be at your best healthy weight and improve your lifestyle through that.
And how much does a test like that cost compared to the DNA test? Do you know a ballpark of pricing so if listeners are kind of thinking about it?
The DNA test, they have quite a different range depending on what type of test you get. But, they can start as low as $150 and even up to $300-$400. And then some of the, the stuff that needs to be done in court for the DNA tests like that, they definitely kind of ramp up with the sophistication and everything. So they can be into several $100s. Like we've had a couple cases where a lady or let's say a guy, whoever, try to keep it as anonymous as possible, but a person came in, they had concerns about their spouse cheating on them. So they've actually brought in, let's say, some samples from articles of clothing.
Got it.
And we take a couple samples from them and take the sample that they send us, we send it into the lab, and they can actually determine if there has been any extramarital interaction between them. And I love the idea that we get to high five them and say, nope, that's all you, girl. That was not a visitor last night. So,
well, I'll tell you what, I see 2 shows coming out of this, CSI Brighton, and then I want to do a Maury style show where you do a You Are Not the Father type of thing. I think we can get you in here, get you hosting it. It'd be a blast.
Yeah, that would be something. That's for sure. Thanks for thinking of me.
Of course. Of course. I didn't realize it was that expansive. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And then are you finding that, as time goes on, more and more people are, coming in for those types of things?
Yeah. We've been working real hard to get the word out. Like I said, I've been knocking on doors and making phone calls for 10 months now, trying to get the word out. My daughter, Mackenzie, she is amazing. She's working her tail off on social media, getting the word out through all those avenues, and she does a great job of taking care of people. And the funny thing is, she's just a good kid. She brings people in. She welcomes them in like family. So I don't know where you get your drug testing at, but pretty much everybody that walks out the door, they leave us a 5-star Google review. And I'm pretty proud of that because that speaks volumes for the way they're treated here and what a great job Mackenzie's doing. My wife also works there. She takes fantastic care of people. When you just treat people right, you treat them the way they should be treated, they kind of share the word with people and it gets out. So now after 10 months of doing this, we're kind of building some traction, getting the wheels rolling. And we're getting more and more people coming in the door for the DNA test, more people come in for the DOT, random programs, and we even get more people that just want a simple drug test when they hire somebody to make sure they're hiring good, clean, safe people to keep a safe work environment for their fellow employees. So.
No, I love it. You haven't been in the community a terribly long time, but your reputation's fantastic, and you've been really, pounding the pavement, getting out there, and doing all the things you should be doing. So, congratulations on that, Stu.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Very kind of you.
So, tell me a little bit about kind of how this grows. Is it more franchises? Is it just trying to? I think one of the things that I really like about our first interaction is service was the main thing you focused on. So it's all about making sure that people are in and out quickly, representative of the name. And then, hopefully gaining more market share through that. So just kind of give me a rundown of what the next year looks like for you guys.
Well, the next year looks like would be, actually we're in the pursuit right now of opening our second location. When we got started, we bought the 2 franchises. I'm not from the Howell, Brighton areas. So my kids kind of grew up in the Chelsea, Grass Lake area. That's kind of more where we're from. But we're in and out of Brighton and Howell, Heartland all the time with athletics and everything over the years. So when we sat down with corporate to talk about what 2 franchises we wanted to get, they said that this area was open. And we said, man, we love the people up there in Brighton. We definitely got to get that one. So we grabbed that one, started with that, and now we're in the process of looking for a location in Ann Arbor, which that's a little bit closer to home for me. I actually know a few people in the area, so that'll be a whole different thing. But we've been working for about 10 months up here, just trying to get the name out. Kind of my favorite thing to do is just, stop by local businesses, walk in the door, introduce myself, just ask them if they got 60 seconds to tell me what they do. And it's been really neat to get to know people in the area, get to know the area. And it's amazing how many different types of businesses are around 15 minutes from this area. It's been a really cool learning experience. So.
Well, you definitely picked a good connection spot with the chamber. There's nearly 1,000 businesses associated with that particular organization. So you'll get to get 60-second intros for the rest of your life probably with that many people in there.
Right. Yeah, I'll say it's been kind of fun getting involved with the chamber. That was one of the first things we did when we hit the ground running because, like I said, we're new to the industry, new to the business, new to the area. I literally didn't know a single person up here. I mean, I knew of a lot of great people that we'd kind of interact with, like I said, through the sports and stuff. I knew it was flooded with great people, but as far as business relationships and that sort of thing, it was all brand new to us. So I thought, what's the best way to get out and meet people? So we joined the chamber, kind of jumped in like it was a part-time job and been to all kinds of events and volunteering and stuff. And it's been a blast. And now it's kind of fun to walk in a room full of people and I know them. I can have great conversations. We're building relationships, building rapport. We're sharing business ideas back and forth, giving each other leads. And it's been a pretty cool experience with the chamber.
I love it. So, Stu, if someone is employer and they're like, you know what, my lab does suck. It is, it does take 2.5 hours. People are complaining that, it's a poor representation of our company. If someone's in that spot, Is it the website? What's the best way for them to hit you up and try and make a change?
Well, they can get a little bit of information from our website. That's a great source for information. But if they're really serious about wanting to have a conversation, start building that the next steps of what we can do, they can either call me at my cell phone, which is 517-435-5297, or they can certainly call the office, 517-295-4145, and then we have all the social media stuff so they can reach out and connect with us on all that as well. But I'd love to engage in a conversation with somebody that represents a business if they want to get their foot in the door and get started with the program, or if they're already doing it and they just want a better program. So that's kind of my biggest challenge in this business is, like I said, most people that are either doing the drug testing now or they're federally mandated to do the drug testing, they're already doing something now. So they're not just, and they're so busy out there right now, they're not looking for new programs, so they think that they're all set. They have no idea that there's a much better option out there. So my challenge is just to get with somebody for 15 minutes, explain what we do and how that compares to what they're doing. And usually there's a pretty vast gap between what they got going on and what we can offer. And we can save them time, we can save them money, and we're going to treat their employees so much better. A lot of people say it's so hard to find good employees, and sometimes that is, but if you create a great work atmosphere, it's a lot easier. So if you're paying people well and you're treating people well, provide them a good, safe place to work where you take good care of them, you partner with good companies, it creates a whole culture where people want to be part of that. And I know companies that have people waiting at their doorstep to get in because they have a great workplace culture, and we love to be part of that.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, Stu. It's not hard to find good people. It's hard to put in the work to put a process in place to facilitate good people coming into your company. And most people don't want to do that.
Right.
They'd rather just complain about the output rather than what they're actually putting into it. Right. So you're 100% right. Stu, anything else that you want to touch on before we close today?
Well, as far as drug testing, some people are nervous about it. They have all these preconceived notions of what it is and how bad it can be. But if you have a program with us and you need to get people drug tested, it's as simple as send them in the front door. We greet them with a smile. We take great care of them. We get them back out and get them back to the job as fast as we can. Hence the name Fastest Labs.
I love it. Well, I'll make sure that all of the information, phone number, the website, all of that's in the show notes for today. I definitely want to have you back on when Ann Arbor gets up and running, talk about what that's like, because I'm sure that might be a little bit of a volume difference between Livingston County and Ann Arbor there. Stu, really appreciate it, man. It was great seeing you again.
Thanks, Rob. It was great being on the show. Appreciate your time, and thanks for walking me through this adventure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hope it wasn't too hard on you. All right, everyone. That's going to wrap up this week's edition of the Chamber Podcast. I certainly appreciate you watching. If you're on YouTube, be sure to subscribe. If you're on Apple or Spotify, drop us a review. Tell us how the show is going. Apart from that, we'll catch you next week. Take care.